Hey guys, this is Shane and welcome to my Curator of the Lost channel. Today, I'm going to talk about book sourcing in antique malls, antique stores, right? Versus like your regular thrift store or library store or something like that. Kind of a different thought if you haven't thought about it. I've got a couple examples and some crazy video of a place I found. I was out in El Paso, Las Cruces, New Mexico area, El Paso, Texas area a couple weeks ago. And I stopped at this place, which got me thinking about this whole subject. So, hey, I know it's been a while since I've done a video. I appreciate you coming back and watching the views. Like I said, I'm kind of just got a lot of things going on, and I'm selling stuff, and I'm having some good success on Amazon and eBay, kind of trying to get my eBay stock built back up. I just haven't had a time to really make videos. I've got several kind of queued up, but I'll make them when I can. And again, I appreciate you guys, long-term time viewers, new viewers, people that are coming back. I appreciate the channel support and look forward to your comments. And we'll just, we'll keep doing this as we can, right? So, all right, so this concept of book sourcing in an antique store or antique mall, if you've never considered it, there's some pros and cons there. And what got me really started on this is several weeks ago, my wife and I were over in Guntersville. That's North Alabama area, a real pretty town over on the lake. And we were over, had to take care of some business, and we ate lunch or walked around the little Main Street area, and there's like kind of an antique store there. And I found this book. It's, you might be able to see it, this City of the Eagle. You can see it. It's a history on Cherokee Indians. And this was like a $5 book and the antique store. And I had a sold comp on eBay for this with a dust jacket. This is the first edition with a dust jacket for $75. So I thought, okay, I don't have a dust jacket, first edition, $5. I'm gonna take a shot on it. It may sit on my shelf for a while, and we'll see. But then I have bought books at antique stores in the past, and if we just look at the pros and cons, the pros of it are that you can find some nuggets, some really interesting, especially in older stuff, right? And a lot of times they're not frequented by booksellers. The downsides is a lot of times in antique stores, the books, anything there, especially if it feels old, that's what happened to me in this video. I'm going to show you this place outside of El Paso. That a lot of times they're fully priced, right? But I've kind of seen it bifurcated. I've seen books in antique stores be like an afterthought and be there for $2-3 each, and then I've seen them like priced as like full blown, eBay, Amazon crazy prices, right? Like ABE books kind of prices. And I think a lot of times in those places, people that sell aren't necessarily book people, but they're just filling things out. They found them. Sometimes they're pricing them for decorative, or just because they're old, they're putting a high price on them. The other thing for me on antique stores is a lot of times you don't see a lot of quantity. Again, the video I'm going to show you in a minute, you'll see a difference on that. But then sometimes, again, the people that run the antique store booths, they're not book people, and they don't stay on top of it. They're not doing comps. They're just kind of priced them by feel, because it's old. So, a lot of times for me, the quantity and the price don't make it something that I hit all the time. But every once in a while, you have a target of opportunity. And I guess I'll bring this up, maybe not as like it's not the solution that's going to solve your book sourcing problems, but sometimes, if there's a target of opportunity, you see one, you haven't been to one in a while that's in your area, maybe stop by, see if they have a book nook, see if there's some dealers there that have books. It could open up a place for you to find some real, diamonds in the rough, So in this particular one I'm going to show you, I came away with one book. All right, this is going to show quantity-wise. And it's this, you'll see, it was tagged for $5. I've got to be really careful because with this, I'll put the hairdryer on this, because with this kind of older cloth dust jacket, that will rip if I'm not super, super careful. And it will probably leave a residue mark there too, like a dark square, but I have to be really careful. But this British steam tugs, subject matter, really interesting. It's British steam engine stuff, tugs. niche kind of nonfiction stuff. The other thing you can see that, it's like a UK publisher. It's got pounds on it. I see this. It's got, some illustrations. I saw this. And I was like, oh, this is my up my alley. Let's see what it is. Well, I see like Amazon, maybe one or two of these have sold in 6 months. Generally, they're listed between $40 and $60. So this will actually just go on my eBay store. It's something that even if I price it at 40 or 50, I don't mind it sitting there for a while. I think it's cool. Sometimes you see cool and you buy cool. $5, I thought it was good. So, but what I'm going to do now is the crazy part of this. Now, I went in and I talked to the lady and I said, hey, I'm a book guy. She said, can I help you? I said, I'm a book guy. This place is right on the interstate. It's at like I-10 as you're going out of west out of El Paso, going into New Mexico. And it's called the Whoopie Bowl. And it's on the right-hand side as you're going toward Las Cruces. And I'd seen it for years going out in that area for work and never stopped. And I had some time and I was like, I'm just going to stop. So it's kind of weird. I'd missed it and had to go to the next exit and go around. But this is one of these places that's got crazy stuff on the outside. You're going to see it in the video. But I went in and I told the lady, I said, hey, I'm a book guy, and do you have any books? And she said, well, upstairs, it's what we call our library. She said, everything up there should be like $10. And I'm like, $10. She said, but you're going to get really dirty and dusty. And so what I'm going to do now, I walked around. I'm going to show you the area. It was insane. But there were bookshelves that I swear dust hasn't moved on these things in a decade. And I found 2 or 3 books, and then after I show you, I'm going to tell you the story of what happened, and wasn't able to buy those and why. But it was kind of an interesting story. So I'm going to break. I'll show you the stuff, and then I'll come back and we'll talk about it. All right, this is the outside of this place. This, again, going up I-10 from on the west side of El Paso, right before you get to the New Mexico state line. It's on the right-hand side if you're headed that direction, and it was called like the Whoopie Bowl. Yeah, there it is. Antiques, but they've got sculpture stuff, aliens. There's just all this crazy stuff on the outside. Then when you go inside, like they must have bought out like a McDonald's, because there's like a McDonald's sign. That Ronald McDonald was like $2,000, but yeah, you got some stuffed animals. But in the back, on the second floor, that's what they call the library, and you're just going to see all these shelves, and you can just see it. I mean, nothing is organized. It's not by fiction, nonfiction, subject. It is just stuff piled shelf after shelf, and it was all so dirty. You see that word star that tells you how long? Is anybody out there old enough to remember word star? If you you went to school in the 80s, you probably used word star before, Microsoft Word took over. But, stuff, I don't know, there's stuff out on the table. There's some, I think, American Rifleman type magazines, but I found some really interesting books here, but most of them, the condition was pretty poor. Kind of looking back, the antique store proper, I mean, the place is ginormous, as they say, right? So I think that's a real word. But you'll see some interesting titles here. I think I pulled out a few here and there, but they are, there's one. It's just kind of bizarre stuff that, I pulled a lot of things out that struck my fancy. But when I was going into this and I said that things were going to be $10, I was kind of being a real critical eye on condition. And it turns out, I'll tell you at the end of the story, things ended up not being just $10, but that's what I thought it was going in. But it was fun to dig around, but I felt so dirty afterwards. There were books here and shelves. I don't think the dust had been touched in a decade. And then over on the side, you can see there was windows, that's like they had filled up the shelves. So they had a makeshift shelf over the window, and then go around to the side, and there's more shelving. Then just so you get the extent, man, row after row of old albums, but I didn't see a lot of vintage rock and roll in there. There were some pretty bizarre titles, and to think about the shelf space on this and how much stuff was actually just sitting there still makes me wonder about like square foot costs. How do you move any of this inventory? But there was stuff that had been here again for years. And then at the end of this road, and I don't know if I showed or not, maybe I do, there was actually magazines, stacks of old Life magazines. I know people have asked me in the past, is there a place to buy some of those? They had it here. I mean, just tons and tons of this kind of stuff. And we always talk about going to a digger sale. Like if you're go to estate sales and they call it the digger market or the digger sale. Here's all the magazines and stuff in here, I think. So yeah, like all the Life magazines and different ones. At this point, I was tired and I was like, man, I got to stop and see if I can get these other books. All right, so again, it had shelves and then all those albums. It was a really interesting place just to browse around. But there was so much stuff in there. I'm thinking, some of the stuff had to be here for not just a year, like tens of years, undisturbed. And how does somebody make money selling this, right? Because it looks like it hasn't been moved. But I found like 3 books, and what was interesting, they had labels on them, and I should have taken a photo of them beforehand. One book was on historical ambulances and funeral hearses. This is the weirdest thing, like a book on historical funeral hearses, like automobiles, carriages. And that was about a $60 or $70 book. I thought, $10, I'll see if I can maybe get it less, maybe if I buy these others. One was like on it was like a local history, kind of Texas, New Mexico history. But these things had other stickers on them. One had a sticker on the inside, it said like $50, and one had a sticker on the outside that said $30. And then I had another one that was like, it had another sticker that says $20. And I'm like, well, the lady told me everything was 10. Let me just go talk to her. So I took him down. Well, she wasn't there. There was another guy there. And I said, well, the lady said, that things were like 10 up there in the library. And, there's all this dust, trying to slay the story, or maybe I could, get all 3 of them for $5 each, like this other booth. This is the one I showed you, came out of a booth, not up in the library. Well, the guy's like, I said, but they had these other price tags on them. So I just, this is what I'm looking at. And I was just wondering, if we could maybe make a deal. If I bought all 3 of these, maybe we can make a deal. And he looked at me and said, well, these have, but she said 10, but these have the price tags. And he said, these are priced at like $100. And I'm like, all right, well, I knew it was a goner then, right? And so we're talking, and I'm not wanting to throw a price out. He's not wanting to. Nice guy. We're talking about stuff. And he's telling me about this book. He didn't know the author. It turned out, as we talked about, it was this Cormac McCarthy Blood Meridian book that he had bought years ago that he had sold for a lot of money. First edition of those are good. But anyway, he wouldn't price. And he said, well, what would you want to pay for them? So I just said, well, I said, the condition, what they are. The lady said 10. If I bought all 3 of them, would you sell them to me like this other booth for $5 each, $15? And he's like, no, these are at 100. I could probably go to like 70. So I'm like, at this point, I know we're never going to get there. And I said, no, well, we're too far apart. And that's it. So I didn't buy any of those 3. And what's so funny about it is that, and that's their prerogative. It's how they want to price them to sell them. But again, these were coming from what I'd call stacks. Remember, if you're old enough, to the library, non-digital, something going to the stacks, these were like in the stacks, and they were coated in dust. I mean, I felt filthy. I went to the restroom and washed my hands and wiped down my face. It was so nasty in there, just dusty. So I ended up only coming up with 1. Funny story there. If you're ever out in that area, it is a fun place to stop and browse around, but the prices are extremely high, and there's stuff that's just crazy. But on the antique store front for book sourcing, hey, if you've got one in your area, it works. It's worth a 10-minute stop. Stop in and see. You might find a new sourcing opportunity. probably things will be too expensive. They might not deal with you, but then again, they might. You might run across some good deals. So again, I hope everybody's doing great. It's hard to believe it's September, already toward the end of the year. It's insane. So see cool, buy cool, list it so you can sell it, and take care. Bye.